Put your hands together for Kathleen, everybody. Illusions. This is the story of a 20-year love affair between a girl and a bridge. I'm the girl. My bridge is falling down. No, it's not London Bridge, although it is in Europe. My bridge is the Pont des Arts. It stretches across the Seine, connecting the School of Arts to the Louvre. You might have heard that. It's a little museum holding the Mona Lisa. I discovered this bridge because when I was staying in Paris for the very first time, I realized it was 82 steps from the apartment where I was staying. And it was the only bridge in Paris where there are no cars and it's just street traffic. Now you may have heard of this on the news because it's falling down. Love has slowly been killing the bridge. Not my love. I've loved it for 20 years and I've never done anything to it. But young lovers and old lovers have been putting locks on the bridge. To date, there are 45 tons of metal locks on the bridge. Nearly 1 million locks are on this bridge. My bridge. Now, mind you, when I fell in love with this bridge 20 years ago, there was not one lock on it. And I did not start this. But what I wanted to do was tell you that since I found this bridge, I have always held on to the thought that this was my special place, that this was my place, my favorite place in the whole wide world. Now, I have a lot of stories, and I'm just going to tell you one quick one about it. They say if you sit in a cafe on the Champs-Élysées long enough, you'll see somebody that you recognize. If you sit on my bridge long enough, you'll meet some interesting characters. One of the more interesting characters I met was an artist. Now, please do not call him a street artist, because number one, he's a bridge artist. I'll point that out to you. Number two, from the other street artists that I have talked to, because I spent a lot of time in Paris, he's a bit full of himself. But that's okay. He stands about, I would say, 6'5". He has a shock of white hair, long beard, flowing robes. I mean, you can't miss him. In fact, like I say, I'm in love with my bridge, and I Google it, and I'm looking a lot of times to see if he is still on that bridge. Anyway, there was one particular time in Paris where he was on the bridge during my whole trip. And this was the time that I was evicted from the apartment that I was staying in Paris. An acquaintance of a friend, see, I should have gone with the friend of a friend. An acquaintance of a friend said, "Oh, I have a place for you to stay." And I said, "Okay, fine," because I'd met her on a previous trip. So, you know, when airfare was only about $400 over to Paris, then it's no big deal to go to Paris if you have free room and board. Well, after about 2 days, this woman decided that her job was stressful and she couldn't house me anymore. Has anybody here ever been in Paris in August or know what Paris in August is like? Okay, the Parisians leave. So everybody I knew had left. They were all on vacation. So this woman said, "That's it, you have to leave tomorrow." Well, the thought never entered my mind that I would go home. No, because my bridge was in Paris, and I was in Paris, and I was going to stay the full 10 days. So I did the next natural thing. I had her drop me off at a convent. I had stayed there once before because they thought I was going to sign up. They had offered me room and board. So I went to the convent. Well, guess what? Even the nuns leave in Paris in August. So I missed out on that. They said, "Well, there's a hostel down the road." Now, this is not the one from the horror film. Trust me. So I went to the hostel, and they said, "Oh, well, we can take you tonight, but we can't take you the next 2 nights, but then we can take you the 3rd night." I mean, it was very complicated. But you can leave your luggage here. So in between all this, I'm going back and forth to the bridge to visit my artist friend, and just because this is my centering place is this bridge. Okay. So I did the next logical thing. I jumped on a train in the Channel, and I went to London for a few days because there was no place for me to stay in Paris. I came back to Paris, And I ran into my artist friend, and who said, oh, I'd like to take you to dinner before you leave. And I said, well, I'd really like to do that. However, my luggage is here, and it's over here, and there, and I have to get it all because I do have to leave tomorrow. Upon which he just looked at me and he said, my God, woman, if this is you on vacation, I don't want to see you in your real life. So, long story short, I've held on to that memory of many other memories I've had, and I've thought, this is my favorite place. I went back about 4 years ago when I was chaperoning a trip, and that's when I first saw the locks. But I still had the feeling that this is my bridge. I love it. This is the one place in the world I want my ashes scattered, and this is what it is. Well, then we came up with illusions. And I started to think about illusions, and I started to think about the idea that I had one place in this world where I felt comfortable. And then I realized that at this point in my life, my favorite place in the world is as a teacher standing in front of my students when I'm teaching. And on the riverbank on the weekends when I'm fishing. And on Tuesday nights in Westchester telling stories to you. And I thank you for listening.
Kathleen, everybody. That's all. Thank you.